All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Borchard.
Bon après-midi, je suis Jeff Fortune.
I
Borchard.
am Borchard. I'm Vice President BNI
Alors, je
Vibe
suis
in Calgary,
vice-président de BNI 5 à Calgary. Non.
and welcome to Meaghan's session on growing your business in challenging times. Meaghan is a business development and marketing strategist who helps business owners tap into local and global networks and generate new business and create access to new markets. Prior to launching her business in 2003, Meaghan worked as an engineer at Chevron for close to 10 years. In 2003, she joined BNI to grow her business coaching practice. And less than a year later, she became the executive director of BNI Alabama. And in 2015, she was invited to join the BNI Global Support Team as Director of Global Training. This allowed her to use her expertise in creating business systems and processes to serve members around the globe. In this role, Meaghan has designed and created BNI University, now called BNI Business Builder. She also led the mission to transition close to 10,000 BNI chapters from in-person to online in 2 weeks last year. And so Meaghan, take it away.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate it. And we're talking today about how to grow your business in challenging times. Now, I hope none of you are hoping to come here and have a silver bullet, because unfortunately there are no silver bullets to this. But I was recently talking with a friend, and he said, I don't think we've seen the end of the change yet. And it broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart, because I was hoping this whole thing was almost over. So I'm not sure what is going to be challenging going forward, but whenever something challenging happens, as you heard in my bio, something challenging that happened to me was that I took the role supporting 65 countries in January of last year. Little did I know that a pandemic was about to happen, and I was going to have to support people all across the globe through that. So I've had an opportunity to think about, what do I do in challenging times? And I'm going to share a few of the things that help me be successful with all of you. We are going to leave some time at the very end for questions. So if you want to drop questions into the chat bar as I go, you're more than welcome to do that, or we can open up your microphone at the end as well for any questions that you might have. All right. So first, when we go into challenging times, it's very, very important for us to really look at our foundation. Most of the time people try and think about, okay, we've already built this house, and now we need to keep going. But this is a great opportunity to sit down and say, do I have the right foundation built for where I think my business is going forward? Because if you don't have the right foundation for the addition or the subtraction that you're going to make in your business, then you're going to ultimately have a challenge. So when I found myself whirling, because I was wondering, what do we need to do? How we need to go forward? What do we need to move? I thought to myself, I need to get back to my foundation, the foundation of what made me successful during the best times I've ever had, and what can I actually learn from that? What can I learn from the times that I've had great success that can apply to today? And that is the basis where you have to get started. You have to look at it and say, what is that foundation? Now, the foundation of business is that there are really only 3 ways to grow your business. And Robert Scrobe talked a little bit about this in his presentation as well, but there's only 3 ways to grow your business. You either increase the number of clients you have, you increase your average transaction value, or you increase the frequency that someone buys back from you. This is from Jay Abraham. It has been around for decades and decades, but those are the only 3 ways that you can actually grow your business. So when you sit down and you say, okay, this is a challenging time, what can I actually do to hit each of these marks? This is when you can start to play around with and start really innovating in your business. What is going to be your focus area? What are going to be the things that you think that you can try and you can adjust to change your overall strategy as you go forward? So always be thinking about in your business, even in great times, right? In great times, you might fill up all the time that you have and you're trying to figure out more time. Well, you can increase your revenue by increasing your prices. You can increase your revenue by increasing and upselling your transactions as well. So these are all principles that you should probably look at and review on a quarterly annual kind of basis to say, am I doing everything that I can do to improve this particular process? For me in BNI, I'm very much looking at that third bucket is what can I do to make this an overwhelmingly great experience for my members in my region so that then they're going to want to stick around and be in the organization for a lot longer. What are ways that you can increase your customer service? What are so that you can get them to repurchase from you? What are the ways that you can increase the value of what you're delivering? And then of course, and I think probably the last way, which was for me in 2020, the last way I looked at it was, I'm probably not going to increase the number of members that I have. I'm probably not going to increase that by a lot. So how else can I compensate for that within my business? So these are the three ways. Whenever you look at your business and you say, this is not going well for me at this minute, or I have to figure out a way to get more, these are the three ways that you're going to have to come back to every single time to ensure that you are being successful. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the next one is look at when you've had massive success and think about what you did then. Okay. You had massive success. What did you do then that made you successful? Can you do that now and make yourself successful again? Some of us will go, well, I got to go to all the networking events I ever wanted. That's the reason why I was so successful at the time. I was very well known around town. Okay, well, that wasn't possible. And that still is not completely possible at this moment. But you can start to learn, okay, so what about that made me successful? It was the number of people we had contact with, right? It was the number of people who you had visibility with on a consistent basis. And how I translated that into what can I do today, as an example, is I started following up and reconnecting with people I had not connected with in a very long time. So if somebody came to mind, I reached out to them. If I saw something on Facebook or other social media platforms from someone who I hadn't talked to in a very long time, I reached out to them as well. And so I actively did what I could do through Zoom and through phone calls and through social media to re-establish relationships so that I could see where those relationships might actually go. The beautiful part about that was not only was I successful at doing that, it was unbelievably fulfilling. There was not a single person in my past, and I went back 20 years, actually, just reconnected with someone that I knew 20 years ago. And she was so excited to hear from me. She was so excited. There wasn't one person who says, why are you calling me? Every single person was excited. So if you think about how much exposure you had, again, this is just an example of the success. How can I get that same level of exposure? And again, I just started reaching out to people in the past and reconnecting with them and letting them know, obviously everything has changed for all of us. You can assume change has happened. So you can assume you need to catch up. And so if you assume that and you reach out to them, then most of the time they're going to be unbelievably happy to see you. So be sure to think about what has made you successful and bring those things back, even if it's a different variation of it, bring those things back. When you start thinking about what are new things I might need to do to move forward, this is where I think this is where my engineering brain comes in. Very, very important that you look at what is the level of effort I'm going to have to put into this, and what are the results that I'm going to get? What is the effort and the results? And really, the upward part is minimal effort, right? If I can call one person and get 10 referrals, that's a great phone call to make. If I have to call 10 people to get one referral, the effort that it takes me to get the same result is much, much higher. And you need to so make a list of all the strategies you can do and then look at them and say, how much effort is it? If it's high effort and low results, then that's something you're not going to want to do, okay? Not going to want to do. Last week, I interviewed one of the most successful real estate agents in BNI, I think. I don't have any way of verifying that, but he shared what his revenue was last year. Massive, just absolutely massive. And the one thing that I took away from that when it comes to effort versus results is you have to focus on income producing activities. The place I love to play is in processes and procedures and growing the team and all of those things. But when you have when you get stunned by your business and you think yourself, okay, growth has slowed down and now I need to rethink it. One of the things you've got to really focus on is what are those income producing activities that I can do? That's what Patrick shared was, I only focus on income producing activities. If it's not income producing, I don't do it. And that's what we need to most of the time when we have a challenge in our business. A lot of times it's really comfortable to go through all the emails, or it's really comfortable to go try and learn something new. But in fact, we need to be spending the majority of our time in the thing that is going to get us the biggest results, which are those income producing activities. So make a list of what are the income producing activities you can do. Chart it on how much effort does that take versus the results I'm going to get. Is it a short-term strategy? Is it a long-term strategy? And start focusing on those short-term strategies to reestablish your foundation of your sales. And then you can start playing around with all of the other opportunities that you have as well. So it's just really important to get your biggest bang for your buck during a time when things become a little bit challenging as you go forward. All right. The next one, this one broke my heart. And I'm going to share a couple stories. I love doing new things. I get bored very, very easily. I love trying something new and let's go and try this and let's try that and let's try this. And what 2020 taught me, if it taught me anything, is business is very, very simple and very, very boring. You figure out what works and you just do it over and over and over and over again. And then you try and figure out a way to make it sexy and fun again. And then you do it over and over and over again. I'm going to use BNI as an example. I am the absolute world's worst. But BNI is super easy. All I have to do is build relationships with members, expose more people to BNI as much as I possibly can. And in our case, focus on starting chapters, which can then, build relationships with what we call the firm and then bring more people in. Literally, it's those three things. Those are the only three things that I should ever be focused on at all, period. And like I said, it broke my heart because it was like, wow, success isn't super sexy or fancy or ever evolving. It is figuring out what works for you and continuing to do it over and over and over again. And again, back to Patrick, but he's probably one of the most successful people I've talked to recently. He literally said, even to this day, he still writes the thank you notes. He still reaches out to former clients. He does all of those things that you would think would be beneath someone who is as successful as he is. But those are the things that made him successful. Thus, those are the things he has to do over and over and over again. So when you think about building a successful life and building a successful business, you've got to think about what are all the things that I need to do to consistently make myself successful. That is going to be, what do I need to do to keep myself the healthiest so that I can ultimately perform at the level that I need to perform at? What are the things that I need to do to keep myself in front of the clients that I do have? What are the things I need to do to help get me exposure to other people who don't know about my business? And one of the things that I've found to be unbelievably helpful in doing this is by rethinking how we do all the things we do today. I'm going to give you a BNI tip that I think a lot of my members think has been very, very helpful. In BNI, we put in the same, right? We have the same habits we ask you to do over and over again, right? Relationship building one-to-ones, figuring out what you want to communicate so that you get the referrals that you want, reaching out or listening for referrals that you can pass to other people. And then rinse and repeat, right? Show up at your meeting, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. But there's a couple ways that you can make that so much easier on yourself. And here's the big secret. You want to know how to pass referrals very, very easily? Have someone in your chapter that is downstream of you. A person that you can ask one question of every one of the people you get in front of for your own business. And one question, that you can pass them, you know that you can pass a referral to them. I'll give you an example. This comes from actually Hazel Walker, who is an executive director, British Columbia, going way back in time to when she was an insurance agent. She asked every client and every person she reviewed insurance with 2 questions. When was the last time you had your mortgage reviewed? The person would tell her if it was anything outside of 2 years, in this market in the United States, at least, it would be anything less than a year. Then she would say, then I would like to refer you to the mortgage lender in my chapter so that they can see if you're getting the best rates on your mortgage. Second question, do you plan on moving in the next 4 years? Asking, are you planning on moving in the next 4 years? People will be like, well, yeah, we're planning on downsizing. Why would I talk to a real estate agent right now if I'm not planning on doing it after 4 years? Well, you want to build a relationship with them, but also if you get them looking for properties for you now, they may actually be able to get you a really good deal if they know what you're looking for and be consistently looking on your behalf until you are ready. Every single person she was in front of, she asked those 2 questions. How many referrals do you think she could get on a weekly basis by asking those 2 questions? A ton. She could get a ton of referrals, and it was super easy. It was as easy as a Post-it note on a computer screen that says, remember to ask this question, right? It is literally that simple. It is on your checklist of what you would do every single day with a client or a prospect, and just add that to the list. So that's one way to make your referrals that you give super, super easy. If you do not have that person in your chapter already, that is someone that you would probably want to bring into your chapter. If you do have that person in your chapter now, then you want to sit down with them and say, and help them help you come up with what the right question is for them to consistently ask. One more real quick sidebar, since I have a little bit of time. It has to be a question people are comfortable asking. Okay, so I asked a therapist, what question could I ask on your behalf? And they said, are you suffering from mental health issues? And I said, do you really think that I'm going to ask somebody that question? They said, oh, well, I guess not. Probably not. Probably not. No, I'm not going to ask someone that question. Is there a less invasive question I can ask on your behalf? So work with that person to figure out what that question is. The second thing, you want to amp up the number of referrals you receive. Make sure you have that person upstream of you, that person who can consistently pass you business as well, that can, again, ask one question on your behalf on a consistent basis to then pass you business as well. If we create that within a chapter all the way around, we have perfect referral flow. Perfect referral flow. Because I know I'm asking the question for Sue, Sue's asking the question for Bob, Bob's asking the question for Sam, and it goes on and on and on until there's a natural end to it. So having the people around you, surrounding you during these more challenging times who can easily pass you business is just a simple, smart way to be able to increase the amount of business, because it automatically increases your exposure and very acute exposure of your business to other people. And again, you'll pay that forward by having that person downstream of you as well. So it's all about making sure that we're doing things really, really smartly. We're making sure that we're thinking about those 3 ways to grow our businesses. We're thinking about the foundation we have laid in order to ensure that we have the right people we're surrounding ourselves with and the right activities that we are doing so that we can ultimately make sure that we are maximizing all of the efforts we're putting in. When the waters and the tides get uncomfortable, it's really, really important that we are making sure our strokes are really, really efficient, because not only is a challenging time challenging for our businesses, but it tends to wear us down as well. So if we can figure out a way to find ways to get super easy successes, we're going to have that success excite us to go on to the next thing and to the next thing and to the next thing. And then it just snowballs from there. So I want your key takeaway to be from this presentation that you need to go back to the things that have always been successful for you and make sure that you're doing those things consistently. I'm a tinkerer. I like to tinker with things. I have figured out a way to make my business successful, and we are literally doing the same thing for 30 minutes over and over and over again, saying the same thing, doing it exactly the same way over and over and over again. We are getting really, really great results. And you know what I said to my team? What can we do differently? And then I stopped myself and I say, okay, next time I say that about something that's really working, you all have full on permission to whack me over the head, because what is working, keep doing. What is not working, you need to adjust. So one last thing before I get questions, all of this really, really works if you are tracking the right metrics and you're looking at, look at that activity that I'm doing and how's that activity impacting me in a positive way. So this might be too engineering for everyone, but you were warned in my bio. I track my sleep using an Oura ring. I track what I eat using an app. I track my calories, obviously, using an app. And I'm constantly measuring all of those. I constantly measure my weight as well. But the reason is so that I know this activity did this. So what have I learned? I learned drinking does not help me sleep well. I've learned sugar does not help me sleep well. All these things that are unbelievably painful to know, because if I want to make a positive change, I have to give some of those things up. But because I've measured it, I at least know what I need to change and can choose to make that change. I think so many times people get into the habit of like, well, I've always done it this way. Well, in order to make a change and to make an adjustment in a positive way, it's really important that you look at those metrics and you say, yes, this is working, or no, this isn't working. And then you can at least choose whether or not you want to make an adjustment and make a change. So it's all about measuring what works, looking at it, everything strategically, effort in versus results out, and looking at all the buckets. Increasing the number of clients you have, increasing your sale, the amount of money you get out of those clients, and their repeat business that comes back to you. And if you focus on those and you measure and you adjust your daily habits to make all of those things happen, you will continue to grow even in challenging times. All right, so with that, I do have some, I'm open for some questions. I think we have about 10 or maybe 5 minutes left. Any questions that you might have?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
The first question is always the hardest.
Hi, Meaghan, it's Deb Miller from BNI Alberta, North Edmonton. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Not so much a question, but I really love how asking that one question ties in to, talking with a lot of chapters about the power of one and what is that one thing we can do? Well, even in your one-to-one, it's just that one extra thing, that one simple thing that can bring those results. So thank you. I think it's a really great takeaway.
A big theme that I'm having, because I love efficiency, is I want you to put the same effort you're putting in. I figure from an executive director perspective, I figure I'm getting everything I can possibly get out of my members currently, right? So even your fellow member, whatever your fellow member is doing, to get them to do a ton more is probably going to be challenging. But to get them to put in the same amount of effort and get a better result out is an easy sell. So I think approaching it that way, saying, let's do this in a really smart way. Everyone will go like, okay, if you're not asking me for any more time or energy, then great. I'm more than happy to make that adjustment. But it is also about staying on top and making sure that people figure out what that question is and communicate that question. That has been, everybody loves the concept, and then it's okay. So let's shackle you to your desk and let's figure out what that is so that we can actually put this into action as well. Yeah. All right, any other questions or comments? Karen, is he unmuted, maybe?
Meaghan, I was just going to ask you something real quick. So Karen Coney with BNI Alberta North as well. My colleague Deb Miller, right sitting below me. I was just going to comment last question on what you had just said. So taking that thought process of that conception idea of let's not do anything more. Let's just do what we were doing and just do it a little bit differently. What results have you seen from that?
So we've seen actually really good results. So one, we did an exercise where everyone figured out what their upstream and their downstream was so that we could capture all of that information as a chapter. And then really people went to work on getting the right people in the chapter to help them make their lives easier. And just one chapter as an example, we did that exercise. They identified who the upstream downstream was for every single member. And we said, okay, invite someone from your upstream or your downstream. And the next week they had 13 visitors, all of which could potentially join the chapter. And they were all really, it wasn't even a hard ask because they knew what was in it for them if that particular seat got filled. So, yeah, the results have been, and a big mindset shift, because you would be surprised at your number of members who don't know who those two people are. Like, painfully shocked at them going like, oh, I've got to really think about this, or let me help coach you through that as well. I think it's just a good exercise for people to learn more about their businesses and who can be really good referral partners as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a really good exercise, both in your business and back in your chapter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Welcome. I think we're at the end of time, right, Jeff? Keeping me straight here.
You got 3 minutes.
Okay, we can get one more question if you'd like. If you would like that presentation that we've done at the chapter level, you are welcome to send me an email. I'm going to put it in the chat just because my name was spelled a little bit wrong in other places. But Meaghan at bnialabama.com, and I'm more than happy to send that over to you if you'd like to use that with your chapter as well. All right.
Meaghan, I'm just curious, if it's so painfully obvious that people don't know they're up and down there too, would you be able to do a quick explanation for them?
Yeah, so that's the presentation that I mentioned. That's exactly what we do. Is we talk about what that means, and very similarly to what I mentioned. What that means is your upstream would ask one question on your behalf, and you would ask one question on your downstream's behalf. The other part that I didn't mention that might be helpful to you as well is the other one is that person that you bring in has to align with your value system so that you can ensure that referral can easily flow, right? In many of my chapters, we have people who are like, oh, I can't pass business to my downstream person. I'm like, well, why is that? And it's because their value systems are not aligned at all. That's a challenge. We're gonna have to like work that out as much as we possibly can. But as you're bringing in new, make sure that actually happens. So I'll give you a quick example. High-end cosmetics and skincare company is in the chapter. They had a personal fitness trainer come in and visit. They said, what is your opinion on who we take into the chapter? And I said, take no one that is not going to work with the people in your chapter, which was a little surprising as the executive director, right? Who my income is directly related to that. However, I'm playing a long game. The long game is I get everybody in there just right. Everybody sticks, and we have referral flow going, right? So they said, yeah, well, we had a one-to-one with that fitness trainer, and we think she's going to apply, except for the fact that she started bad-mouthing the company that the cosmetics and skincare company worked in. And I said, well, then she can't be a part of the chapter, because that is a critically important seat for Fern to have in the chapter and to work well together. So that person cannot be in the chapter. We need to find them another place where whatever other cosmetics and skincare company they might jive with a little bit more. But absolutely, if my whole goal is perfect referral flow in each of the chapters. And if we get that, then the members make massive amounts of money, and everyone is happy, and thus they are retained, because money plus happy makes retention really work. So yeah. So to the end, thank you, Jeff, for helping out. I want to thank you all so much for coming. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out and email me, and I'll be more than happy to help in any way that I can.